Every morning at precisely 4:32 a.m., Gloria Matthews walked through the back gate of Langley Air Force Base. Not through the main entrance, never that. She kept to the shadows, head down, pushing her battered yellow mop bucket across cold concrete, floors. Security barely looked her way. New cadets sometimes nodded politely, most didn't even notice. To the entire base, she was just Ms. Gloria, the janitor with the slight limp and quiet voice. She scrubbed mess halls, cleaned flight, simulators, emptied trash in the briefing rooms where boys half her age talked like war gods. None of them asked her where she came from. None ever guessed who she really was. But if someone had paid attention, they might have noticed the way she eyed the tarmac. How her gaze lingered on the F-22 Raptors lined up like sleeping giants. How her hands tensed when one roared to life. And how she unconsciously braced herself like she could feel every inch of takeoff through the ground. They might have noticed how she flinched when someone said, Operation Scythe in passing, or how she fixed the coffee machine using an aviation tool technique, or the way she still checked wind direction with a single glance outside, like it meant something to her. They didn't notice, because they weren't supposed to. Hidden in, the back of her tiny apartment in Hampton was a shoebox, old and duct-taped, shoved under a squeaky floorboard. Inside, a silver star, a pair of shredded pilot gloves, a photo of a younger Gloria, helmet under arm, G-suit zipped to the neck, standing in front of a jet with a kill count stenciled beneath the cockpit, and a letter. Sealed, unsent, addressed to the ones who buried the truth. Gloria had flown with the best. She had outmaneuvered Russian interceptors, ghosted radar in hostile skies, and landed a shot no other American pilot dared attempt. But she vanished 8 years ago. Not in war. By choice. Because she disobeyed a direct order. Because she saved lives instead of taking them. Because heroes like her don't get parades when they expose what wasn't supposed to be seen. So she stayed silent. Took a janitor's job where no one would look for her. Until that day. A new trainee, too cocky for his own good, pushed the limits of a training sim during high winds. It turned real, fast. He lost control of a jet mid-air, and no one on base had the hours or skill to rescue him. They screamed for help. Someone mumbled, "What about the janitor?" Laughter. Awkward silence. Then all eyes turned. Gloria stood by the door, her eyes locked. On the control room monitor, for the first time in nearly a decade, she moved with purpose, and she said 7 words that would haunt the base forever. Open the hangar. I'll fly it. The room went dead silent. Airmen stared in disbelief, as if the mop in her hand had just turned into a sword. The control tower crew exchanged glances, half thinking it was a joke, half terrified it wasn't. Gloria stood firm, her shoulders squared. That same stillness you see in the eye of a storm. Her janitor uniform was damp with sweat and bleach, her boots scuffed, her ID badge clipped low. But her voice was unshakable, sharp, authoritative. Open the hangar, she repeated. Before that boy dies. One of the junior lieutenants, Evans maybe, stepped forward, face pale. Ma'am, you're not... are you even cleared to... She turned slowly toward him, her gaze slicing straight through his sentence. That pilot has less than 3 minutes before he hits a stall he won't recover from. No one on base has the hours for a mid-air intercept in crosswinds like these. But I do. Her eyes flicked toward the screen. The F-22 training jet was wobbling hard to port, caught in a brutal gust. The kid inside, Second Lieutenant Travis Hill, just 6 months out of the academy, was panicking. Radio chatter from his mic was static-laced chaos. Can't level, flaps aren't responding, ejecting in high wind. Jesus, what do I... Gloria turned to the hangar chief. Get me in the Raptor, now. To his credit, he didn't argue. Something in her voice activated years of instinct. He hit the comms and barked into the mic. Scramble Bay 3. Uncage the bird. The base hadn't moved that fast in years. Mechanics swarmed the hangar. Technicians prepped the Raptor, powered it, checked fuel and hydraulics. They weren't sure why they were doing it. They just obeyed. Something felt right. Urgent. Like watching an old general walk through a battlefield barefoot and still command armies. Inside the locker room, Gloria stripped off her janitor's uniform and opened a dusty wall locker she hadn't touched in 8 years. It had no name tag, just a symbol, one even the brass barely recognized anymore. A faded Valkyrie wing. Inside, her flight suit, custom cut, regulation issue, still immaculate. She suited up in silence. The G-suit hugged her frame like it had just been waiting all this time. She tied her braids back, zipped up, and picked up the helmet. As she stood before the mirror, she whispered, "Let's dance, old girl." The control tower couldn't believe what they were seeing. Gloria Matthews, Ms. Gloria the janitor, walking toward the tarmac with the helmet under, one arm like she never left. The wind caught her jacket and the wing insignia flashed, a mark from a squadron long since decommissioned. One tech squinted, reading it. "Is that Valkyrie 6? Another gasped. "No way. That unit was Black Ops. They said the commander, Colonel Ramirez, cut them off. Clear the runway." Inside the cockpit, her hands moved like they'd never forgotten. Engine on, HUD lit green. Control surfaces checked. Radio synced. The canopy closed with a hiss and sealed her in. It was like slipping back into her own skin. "Tower. This is Valkyrie 6. You copy?" The comms officer blinked. "Say again? This is Valkyrie 6. Request immediate launch clearance. I'm bringing that kid home." A beat. Then, "Copy that. Valkyrie 6. You are clear for takeoff." The engines roared to life, and Gloria Matthews, once written off as a ghost, blasted off the runway in a vertical climb that left the earth behind her like smoke. High above the base, Hill's jet tumbled near the edge of control. Inside the cockpit, Hill was sweating bullets. The automated systems were failing one by one. He gritted his teeth, trying not to black out from the G-force. The clouds had swallowed him whole. He couldn't see the horizon, couldn't hear the tower anymore. "I'm losing her. I can't." Then, a new voice, calm, grounded, commanding. "This is Valkyrie 6. Eyes on you, Hill. Level out. I'm on your 6. He blinked. He knew that voice. From training materials, from audio files archived in pilot lore. A voice that had only ever existed in legend. You're her? Focus. You've got 10 seconds to mirror my trajectory, or you're going down hard. Trust me." No hesitation. He did exactly what she said. With expert ease, Gloria slipped beneath his jet, tilted her wings just so, and pulled him gently upright with synchronized air pressure. Like two birds flying in perfect formation, her spatial awareness was perfect. Hill steadied. "Breathe. Stay with me," she said. Down at Langley, the tower crew stared at the radar in silence. 2 blips, flying tighter than anyone thought possible in that kind of wind. One of the youngest cadets whispered, "That's not flying. That's dancing." When both jets touched down safely 6 minutes later, the base exploded in chaos. Cheering, confusion, a mix of awe and panic. Gloria climbed out of the jet slowly, quietly. Her boots hit the runway and she removed her helmet. Her braids blew in the wind, the same air she once ruled. Hill stumbled out behind her, dazed but safe. She looked at him, nodded once, and said, "You did good. Now remember that Sky doesn't. Forgive arrogance." Then she handed the helmet to the hangar chief and walked away. Back toward the janitor's locker room like it was any other day. But it wasn't. Whispers spread like wildfire across the base. Phones rang in D.C. Emails flew through encrypted channels. Somewhere deep in the Pentagon, a red file lit up on a secure server. One word flashed across the screen. Reactivated. Because when Valkyrie 6 returned to the sky, a secret that was supposed to stay buried cracked wide open, and the world was about to remember the name. Polish Gloria Matthews, from janitor to legend, in just 90 seconds of sky. The jet was spinning, not just losing altitude, violently tumbling over the Atlantic coast, less than 20 miles off base. Alarms in the control tower screamed warnings. Weather radar showed a sudden unseasonal squall closing in fast. Every qualified pilot on base had been grounded for weather or lacked the flight hours to attempt a recovery. "We have a bird going down. Repeat, Cadet Andrews is spiraling." The trainee, a hotshot rookie named Tyler Andrews, had been warned not to push it. He disobeyed orders, ignored the jet stream warnings, and now he was falling from 30,000 feet in a $150 million F-22. His breathing ragged G-forces hammering his body, he radioed in, panic barely disguised beneath the static. "Control, this is Andrews. No lift. I can't stabilize. Requesting something." Back on the ground, chaos. Officers scrambled, but no one had the experience for this kind of recovery. In that cockpit, even a seasoned pilot might black out. Andrews wasn't seasoned. He was barely 6 months out of training school. Someone shouted, "He's going to punch out." Another voice, Latir Hernandez, turned to the commander and said the unthinkable. "What about the janitor?" People paused. There was a long, awkward silence. "You mean Gloria? She's not a..."
She knew what an aileron override circuit looks like. She told me how to fix a radar jammer, offhand. Who does that? They all turned as one. Gloria was already halfway across the tarmac, wind tugging at her gray coveralls. The storm clouds crackled behind her, lightning illuminating the hangars like a war film. She didn't run. She walked, but with purpose. Each step like she was walking back into the version of herself she'd locked away. Crew members stared as she approached the Ready Raptor. She looked over the jet like a surgeon returning to the calm, methodical, unapologetic. "Fuel good?" she asked the nearest mechanic. He stammered. Yes, ma'am. She's hot and ready." Gloria climbed the ladder with ease that defied her age, slid into the cockpit like it was a second skin. Her hands glided over the controls, switches flipped, engines hummed. The HUD lit green. "Control, this is Ghost Actual. I'm wheels up in 30. The tower stuttered. Ghost Actual? That call signs? Classified," she cut in. "You're clear to record this. Just try to keep up." With no fanfare, no warm-up, she hit the throttle. The jet screamed down the runway and tore into the sky like it had missed her. Tower crew members and base personnel watched in stunned silence as the old janitor who scrubbed their toilets broke the sound barrier less than 800 feet off the ground. Above the clouds, the storm was worse. Lightning webbed across the horizon. Wind shear battered the sky in chaotic jolts. Rain pelted the fuselage so hard it sounded like gunfire. Gloria's eyes locked onto her instruments, tracking Andrews' jet like it was prey. "Cadet Andrews, come in." His voice cracked. I'm still falling. I can't see. Jet's in spin. I don't know what—" "You're not going to die today, kid." Who are you?" There was a pause. The storm growled. "Let's just say I'm the ghost they buried." She banked hard left, slicing through turbulence like butter. Her jet leveled out behind Andrews. Close. Too close. 200 feet. 150. You're stalling at 8,200. You need to break the rotation. I can't." "Yes, you can. Look at your feet. Left rudder. Now." The jet twitched, caught, then trembled, but she was pulling him out. A maneuver that had failed simulation tests for years, too dangerous to attempt. But Gloria didn't blink. "Ease your stick. Nose down 5 degrees. Feel that? That's lift." She hovered like a shadow beside him, guiding every move, steadying, his panic with surgical precision. It was like watching a hawk catch another bird midair. Back in the tower, mouths hung open. Officers stopped barking. They just listened. "She's flying that jet like it's alive," someone whispered. Another muttered, "She's not flying. She's commanding the sky." 10 minutes later, both jets landed safely. Cadet Andrews hit the tarmac and stumbled. Out, knees buckling. His legs weren't responding. He fell. No shame. He survived. Gloria didn't exit her cockpit immediately. She sat in the silence, hands on the controls, breathing steady. A look on her face like someone waking up from a long dream, or maybe walking right back into one. One mechanic approached hesitantly. "Ma'am, are you really Ghost Actual?" Gloria finally looked at him. Her eyes were sharp, alert, and colder than anyone remembered. "I was." Word spread across the base like wildfire. By sundown, everyone knew. The janitor had just flown a miracle. Pilots whispered in the mess hall. Ground crew watched footage of her landing frame by frame. Trainees brought up old mission files and found a redacted call sign that matched her maneuvers exactly. Some claimed she once went head-to-head with Chinese stealth fighters and walked away. Others said she ghosted 5 SAM sites in one run. The base's myth had begun. No one laughed anymore. No one ignored her. When Gloria walked past a group of officers that night, they stood, not because of rank, because of respect. But Gloria knew what came next. Flying meant being seen. Being seen meant being found. And if they found her, the ones who buried her name, there'd be more than jets coming her way. Still, as she sat on the hood of her rusted truck that night sipping bad vending machine coffee, she looked up at the stars and whispered something into the dark. "You can't erase what lives in the sky." The day after the flight, Langley Air Force Base was different. Officers stood a little straighter. Cadets whispered more quietly. And everywhere Gloria Matthews walked, people looked, but this time, with awe. The base commander requested a private meeting. She refused. "I already clocked out," she said, tugging on her janitor's badge like a middle finger in plastic. But the silence didn't last long. By midday they arrived, 2 black SUVs, tinted windows, and 4 men in suits too stiff. To belong to the Air Force, NSA, DIA? Maybe something darker. They didn't identify themselves. They didn't need to. Gloria was escorted off base before sunset. No cuffs, no public spectacle, just silence and cold air. They brought her to a decommissioned hangar in D.C. Inside, a single table, 2 chairs, a sealed folder. Across from her sat a gray-haired man she hadn't seen in over a decade, General Nathan Briggs. "You always did know how to make an entrance," he said flatly. She didn't reply, just stared at the folder on the table. Briggs slid it toward her, stamped, "Classified, Operation, Scythe, Eyes Only. You flying again? That's a problem, Gloria. Only for people still lying," she snapped. Briggs sighed. "You should have stayed hidden. You had your deal. Exile. Clean record, you break that, this all comes back." She opened the folder. Photos, debriefs, a satellite image of a village reduced to ash. "This came back the second you burned those people to protect a contractor's oil field," she said. "Don't talk to me about deals. I made mine with my conscience." Silence. The weight of her words heavier than anything in the folder. Operation Scythe wasn't just a mission. It was a cover-up. They ordered her to bomb a confirmed hostile weapons site in a disputed zone. But when she reconned the target, she found unarmed civilians, refugees caught between borders, being used as camouflage by American interests. She broke formation, refused to fire. Her wingman didn't. When the smoke cleared, 34 civilians were dead, and Gloria disappeared. Not because she was guilty, because she spoke up. Her refusal was recorded, buried, and twisted into disobedience. During classified action, her medals stripped, her career erased, and she let them. Because they promised they'd leave her name out of it, if she disappeared completely. "But you couldn't help yourself, could you?" Briggs muttered now. "Had to play hero again." Gloria leaned in. "I didn't save him to be a hero, I did it because someone had to, something you never understood." Then she stood, straight-backed. "You can try to silence me again, but you can't unsee what I did yesterday." The tower recorded every second. Pilots talk. The ghosts out of the shadows. Briggs didn't stop her from walking out. He didn't need to. Because now, everyone already knew. Back at Langley, the legend grew overnight. Pilots printed her photo and pinned it in lockers. One cadet made a patch that read, "Ghost Actual, when all else fails." A senior officer, Colonel James Ike Beckett, publicly demanded her records be reviewed. Another revealed he had trained under her real call sign back in 2011 and swore she once flew 9 missions in 48 hours under combat blackout. They couldn't erase her again. Not this time. She was written in too many memories now, so they changed strategy. They gave her back her name. 1 week later, on the parade field behind Hangar 12, over 200 personnel stood in formation as the base commander stepped to the podium. "Today we correct a mistake," he said, voice amplified under the blue Virginia sky. "A mistake that lasted 8 years. A mistake that stole a legacy from the halls of this base, and from the hearts of everyone who dares to wear a flight suit." Gloria stood beside him, no longer in coveralls. She wore her Air Force blues, reissued just that morning. Clean. Crisp. Medals restored. Her silver star gleamed against her chest like a truth that could no longer be denied. "By direct order of the Department of the Air Force," the commander announced, "we reinstate Lieutenant Colonel Gloria Matthews, call sign, Ghost Actual, with full honors, flight status, and service record." Applause broke, but Gloria didn't smile. She stepped to the mic and looked at the sea of young faces. Future pilots, future choices. She didn't want their worship. She wanted their understanding. "They buried my name because I didn't pull the trigger. They told me duty meant obedience. They were wrong. Real duty means doing what's right, even when it breaks orders. Some of you will face a moment where your choice could cost you your career, or your soul. I made mine. I don't regret it." She looked toward the runway. "I'm not here to be a hero. I'm here to make sure none of you have to disappear. To do what's right." Silence. Then an eruption of cheers. But Gloria just stepped back. Always calm, always composed. The kind of stillness that only comes from flying through fire. Now, months later, she trains the elite, not with slideshows or war stories, but with truth. She walks cadets through failed missions, moral compromises, and teaches them not just how to fly but how to decide. Her classes are standing room only. They say she flies alone once a week. Dawn patrol, no co-pilot. Just the hum of the engine and the wind cutting through silence. When she takes off, nobody speaks. They just watch, and listen, and remember. Because when that jet lifts off, slicing through the sky with ghost-like grace, it doesn't feel like training. It feels like justice rising.